In Lakesh in Veritas, everyone, we are sending you the frequencies of oneness and truth with honor, respect, and gratitude. Welcome to the Of the Sun weekly Suncast Podcast, where we cover evolutionary topics focused on expanding ourselves and humanity into becoming the frequency of truth, moving into oneness. Come in live from the frequency and elevation of one mind. We have LaOta of the Sun, who is the guiding force and architect of this vibrant organism, and provides of the Sunners wisdom and guidance so they can find the truth and be free. I am Tavares of the Sun, certified instructor and practitioner of the Sun modalities and the creative director behind Of the Sun's artwork, programs, and sessions. So with honor, respect, and gratitude, in Lakesh in Veritas, everyone.
In Lakesh and Veritas. I'm excited today. We have a guest today. But before we begin, let us first do what needs to be done first. Let us call for truth. Shall we? Call for truth. Shall we call for the frequency of truth? Shall we call to see the truth? And all that we survey, shall we call to hear the truth? And everything that comes into our experience through sound, shall we call to have the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call that the frequency of truth comes into our experience and that all may have the opportunity to be, see, hear, and speak the truth? So I'm so happy that we have started off our show in the usual way. I'm feeling really good, and it's wonderful to have our guest today. Would you introduce our guest?
Yes. So in today's transmission, we're going to dive deep into the frequency of gratitude with a live testimonial today from one of our clients who's an of the Sunner who has moved herself through the energetic clearing protocol. She'll be sharing some of her authentic experiences as it relates to the unfoldment of her process with Of the Sun. So without further ado, with honor, respect, and gratitude, we welcome Diarra Markham.
In Lakesh, Diarra, how are you?
I am wonderful. In Lakesh and Veritas to all. Thank you so much for this opportunity to come and share my experiences.
I'm so happy that you told me about what was going on with you. I thought our listening audience would be very pleased to hear. From what I remember, you are avidly listening to all the podcasts, and you were out somewhere and you were listening to one of the casts on correction. Is that right?
Yes.
And would you share with us what happened from there?
Okay, so this was following, just to provide a little bit of context. I had completed within I think 2 weeks, I had completed the property and vehicle clearing with Tavares. And he had recommended some energetic support tools, and one of them was information on the podcast around the frequency of correction and truth and right thinking. And so, of course, I had all intention to listen to them and hadn't gotten an opportunity to listen. And then I had, like, the very next week, a soul clearing 3 session with LaOta. So what came up in that prompted me to go back and begin to move through these recommended podcasts. So I was out one day and started listening to the frequency of correction. And I was in my car, and then I needed to go into the grocery store. So I had my earbuds in, I'm listening, and went through the entire podcast. And at the end, LaOta did a meditation on correction. But because I was out, I couldn't receive the full experience. So the next morning, as I was awakening, I was, calling in high frequency, truth, and all of that. And I said, oh, let me go back and listen to the meditation portion of the podcast again. And so I center myself, I listened to the podcast, and listened to the meditation portion. And when it was over, I didn't necessarily, because it's a very powerful meditation. I was expecting to feel something, kind of magical, have these different shifts. And when it was done, I didn't experience that. So I said to myself, well, maybe I need to listen to it again. So I started it back over again. And this time I started it slightly earlier in the podcast. And so at some point right before the meditation, they had said, we're going to take a break to get some water. And I remembered that when I was in the grocery store. But what I missed was right before the meditation started, LaOta explained that, and I'm paraphrasing my words, that the frequency is able to move on the waves of the water. Is that correct? Am I?
That is correct. The information and travels through the body on the waterways or through the veins of the fluids in the body.
Yes. So for me, that was like very powerful, very resonant, and was a major distinction that I had really missed. And I was just waking up, so had not even been hydrated throughout the day. So I said, okay, let me stop. I ran downstairs, got some water, came back upstairs. And as I'm settling back in to start the recording again, a flash in my mind of an image of a check that I had written just the night before flashed into my, just flashed across my radar, spiritual radar. And I was like, So I'm trying to still get settled, and it's still flashing. And so I decided to tune in, and what came forth was just so powerful. I was taken back to the energy that I was in at the time that I wrote the check. And what kind of came through was just so, to me, so profound, because clearly the correction had started, even though I had not, quote unquote, felt anything. And so what came through was the night before, I had written a check to purchase this new water system for my house. Now, I have been tracking this water system for almost 2 years. It allows, higher alkaline levels, and it's been a part of my healing. And I've been purchasing the water from someone else, and I was going to invest to get my own system. And so I had budgeted for it and had finally just gotten a clear, like, yes, it's time to move forward. And when the gentleman sent me the invoice, all of a sudden, all of these, I'm gonna call them like negate, low vibrational, messages started coming through. And it was like, wow, this is a lot of money. And I didn't think it was gonna be this much. And is this the right time? And I need to get some work done on my car. And I'm just like, wow. Now, all the while, I'm still writing the check. I hadn't I'm writing the check. I'm still writing the check, and all of this stuff is just going on. And by the time I finished writing that check, it was like, I just, my whole, energetically, it was just off. So I wrote the check. I sent him a copy of the check. And so all of that in this moment, as I was settling into the meditation, came back to me. And I immediately jumped up out of my bed and I called him, because I was like, I got to get that check back. So I called him. He didn't answer. So I sent him a text message. And while I was texting him, he was calling me back, and I went ahead and just sent the text anyway, because I wanted a record of what had come through in that moment. So this is the text that I sent to him. I said, peace. I know this may sound strange, which is why I'm calling you. And I was wondering if you've done anything with my check. I need to adjust the energy that went into it. The vibration was very low. And that is not how I want to kickstart my relationship with, and I named the company.
Straight up.
Oh, I love it.
I said, my guides have just shown me what is in store with me and the water. And it is so much bigger than me. I need to infuse that joy, energetic clearing and elevation, excitement, gratitude, love, order, harmony, and correction into the check so it can amplify the entire transaction. I'm in my meditation time now. It's coming up to write a new check. If that's possible, please shoot me a note back. And so he ended up calling and he said, well, I don't know if my business partner has deposited the check, but I will at least try to see if I can stop it so you can write a new check. So once we hung up, I didn't even wait for him to call back. I immediately just started speaking the truth. And the truth is that, one, I had the money to write a check for the system because just 2 years ago, when I first learned about the system, I was up to my eyeballs in debt. And I had been paying off debt. I had been planning. So just the fact that I was able to write a check, I was grateful that I'm on my healing journey. I'm so grateful that I even know about and understand the importance of using, clean water. And I just went into this whole spirit of just gratitude. And then afterwards, I settled in and started the meditation. And as I'm sure it's no secret to either of you, I started to see everything that was related to this one purchase. And so I was just blown away because something that is intended for healing and wholeness, that I was infusing all of these negative and negating low vibrational energies into that transaction that was going to be carried through them selecting my system, sending it to me, getting it installed. And so I was like, no, I gotta fix that. So I just wanted to just share that that meditation and just the energetic support that is provided after the services is so critical, because it allowed me to be able to course correct right in the moment, which is exactly what Tavares had talked to me about around keeping my home and the frequency in my home high, and the same thing that LaOta had reiterated when I had my Soul 3 clearing. So just to have a number of tools, because I had ordered candles and all of that too. So just to have a number of tools to support me and for me to hear and see how I was sabotaging the process and recognizing that I had the power to recall it back and to really shift my vibration. So that's my testimonial.
Well, thank you so much. You've hit so many key points. You have something first?
Yes, thank you, Diarra, for sharing this. It was, I was tickled throughout. Man, there were so many hot points that you spoke to. This idea of correction and how the correction brought you into gratitude.
Yes.
You mentioned about this idea of course correcting yourself. That's what it's about. It's not how many times we fall, but how quickly can we pick ourselves up? How quickly can we catch ourselves and maintain the pitch? And I thought it was so awesome how when you began calling for the correction and then you got the flash of the thoughts of the experience with the check, and then you saw how that was playing out in other aspects of your life. I'm like, whoa. I was there with you. I saw that, and but again, that power that you had to start changing and impacting your reality, through correction. I think it's really cool. So thank you again. There's so much more I could share, but
and you've hit so many really important points. I wanted to point out that all of us have been affected by the negative thought forms in the waveform that are in our experiences. They're in the street, they're in the air, they're in our neighbors, they're in our family. And every time we want to break the sphere, the evolutionary sphere, to break the hold, to have new clean water, to have higher vibration in our homes, there is automatically something that comes in that, tries to stop you, but it didn't stop you. It didn't, you didn't allow it to, but it's always what we allow and what we permit. And most of the time we're nose blind. Most of the time we're not cognizant of our own thoughts. We don't realize that every time we think of money, we get sad or we get lower vibration, or every time we have to pay someone, it's an old habit that has to be changed. And you caught yourself. And the other thing that's interesting is that the meditation work things, and I talked to you about this with another service you had. Things don't always work out the way you think they're going to work out, but they do work out perfectly. So the idea that it didn't come the way you thought it was, and then you realize that you weren't hydrated, so the information hadn't gone to all the places that it needed to go in your brain. As soon as you started drinking, got water in your mouth, I saw the light go into the brain, and it's like your head turned on. And then you were able to course correct, because the meditation is for correction, and it's something that you can use often, repeatedly, and correct all levels of things. So thank you again for sharing this. I think every person can relate to this, because at one time or another they may have had a relationship with money that they thought they had healed, because they're in a better situation, but there's still some old residue of resistance. It's kind of like you were giving them the dollar but wouldn't let go of it.
Yes.
So we really are happy that you've been on to say that. We're going to take a break and come back, and we're going to be talking about what happens with the divine feminine, and how the earth and how we treat ourselves is really the same thing. And I think you may have something you want to share about that, because in your recent homework, you have homework about how to think about yourself. So we'll see if you have any comments. So we'll be right back.
Invocation Veritas.
Remember, you are 70% water. You are the divine feminine and masculine. If you can't go through it, go around it. Water does. Let us be the force of water that exceeds limitations, exceeds boundaries. Let us flood and dilute the dominant, archaic, anti-life structures that rule our world. Shall we transgress the boundaries? It is time for transition and transcendence. It is time for authority and renewal.
In Lakesh and Veritas, everyone. Welcome back, Suncast Podcast. And again, we have with us an of the Sunner, Diarra, on the line. She just finished wrapping up the testimonial. And one of the things that we were speaking of on the break was how this is so synchronistic and aligned with LaOta's monthly self-healing class tomorrow, which will be 2 days from anyone listening to this, because it'll be in the future by then. But the good thing for you is that these classes are all recorded, so you can join in on the elevation with us as it pertains to the concept of the water element. And remember, you are water. All right, so we're going to dive into the Divine Feminine segment. And LaOta, I believe you have quite a bit of content to share with us. We're going to be talking about this, I think, for years.
Yes, this is our focus, and this is very much needed as a focus. Today, I'd like to highlight the idea of how we treat ourselves, and how there's the contrast that exactly the way we treat ourselves is exactly the way we treat the earth, because we are the divine principle in the physical form of a woman, and the earth is the divine principle in the form of the planet that we live on. And what we allow and permit to happen to us, we are on board with allowing and permitting to happen to her. So this is a very important analogy that we must learn to see, we often find ourselves fighting with all of our might for our own limitation. We allow and permit many things to happen. When we think about when you live in a house and you have a garden or you have a yard, and the laws support that you want to have your grass a certain height and you want it to be especially green, and no one really ever thinks about the fact that the companies and the stores where we buy these things are poison, that we're wanting to poison what we think are pests, and we want to kill what we think are invasive weeds, when in fact these are all many life forms that exist and live upon the surface of or on the back of our mother, the earth. And so we're busy trying to stamp out all life with the excuse that we want our lawns to be green. But if we look from an aerial view, most of the earth is green all by itself without any help from us. In fact, even when we put concrete over our sidewalks, which would have been dirt, sometimes a blade of grass will break through the concrete and just be, I'm alive. I'm alive anyway.
Strong visual.
This little tiny blade of grass is breaking through the concrete. Yes. And that's the truth of it is that the life of the earth is from within the earth, that as feminine principles, as the divine feminine, we exist as that example, but we are also on board with killing life, although we're the responsible party that brings life. So this contrast needs to be seen. So I'm going to speak about what happens when we callously treat ourselves in a way in which then we feel very comfortable with treating other aspects of consciousness. So I'll start by talking about our bodies. And Diarra has homework, actually. I'm not sure if she did her homework, but she recently had a service of soul retrieval. And the homework for soul retrieval is that you must begin to love yourself to avoid having to have soul retrieval again. And this idea of loving oneself, it brings to your immediate attention the necessity for knowing that you are not your body, that you are the custodian that lives within it, and your body obeys you faithfully, as do many things on the earth operate differently than the mind of man or woman of humanity. And that they deserve our attention and our care and our concern. So with Diarra, and if you want to say something, you can. I don't know if you did do that homework, but that idea is really what I'm talking about today. The idea that when we look in the mirror, we feel so comfortable with being disapproving of what we see. We infect our reflections with our disappointment. We look in the mirror and we think, I don't like my eyebrows. I need to draw some eyebrows, because these eyebrows that creation gave me, that I built over 300 lifetimes, are just not the right eyebrows for today. I need some new eyebrows. So let me go and get something that is not too poisonous to put on my skin, because anything we put on our skin, we might as well be putting it in our mouths, because the body understands it that way. So, if you can't eat it, you probably shouldn't put it on your face. So we're such a comfort level with, we look in the mirror and we don't like the way our hair looks, or we don't like how our ears are shaped, or we don't think our nose is the right nose. And I'm here to share with you, I have lived here many times before, that you have grown into your face, that it is the exact right face for who you are, because there is a connection between the biology and the spiritual development of the body. So any discontent is your own immaturity, because there's really nothing wrong ever. There really isn't anything wrong. Everything is right for whatever your personal lesson happens to be. So in this idea of uh, looking and being in the six C's, where do you remember the six C's? Would you share the six C's to ours?
So the idea is no criticizing, complaining, condemning, coveting, competing, and comparing.
Look at you got all six.
I was in a hot seat there. I had to use my fingers. Like, okay, that's one, two. I don't have time to look it up.
So you can look at the mirror in the morning and you could hit all the six C's that are not in your best interest. You could, be thinking about somebody else's hair and covered in those, or their eyebrows, or their full lips, or whatever it is that is the fashion of the moment, or your discontent directs you to, without really realizing that we imprint not only our houses with the reflection of our discontent. So now the mirror is contaminated in the bathroom or wherever you're looking at yourself, but we also are contaminating the living consciousness of our bodies. We are inappropriately abusing them. Instead of being loving and supportive and in cherishing what we have, we're in complaint mode. We're condemning. And all of this is what we see back in our culture. And it's also what we do when we look outside and we look at the beautiful earth and we say, we need to pull up all those things that don't look like regular leaves. We need to, really make sure that we kill anything that looks like it's crawling out there. I mean, it's earth, that is where they live, but it's my part of the earth where we don't allow grow life on this part of the earth, because we want our artificial turf to look like that. We want to put the things that will kill the grass ultimately and will hurt our animals, and that ultimately will kill anything that is alive that goes on the grass, including the person who bought it. So this same idea, we see it when we look at our hair. Especially hair is a big thing in our world in 2021. All kinds of people are doing all kinds of things with their hair. They're twisting it and torturing it and, coloring it and chemicalizing it and cursing it and doing all the things, but remembering that it is as sacred a part of us that's living as any other. We are told, or I was told as a child, that my nails were dead and that my hair was dead. And that allowed me to think and to then put chemicals on, because I'm thinking, well, it's dead, but that doesn't make any sense. Life and death do not exist in the same space.
That's amazing insight there, because I think we're all taught that idea that your hair, dead cells, that it's not active, but it's growing. How's it growing? It says dead. It's a zombie hair. I don't know. It does. The point I'm making is it doesn't make any sense. It can grow in. And what very irresponsible thing it is to share or disseminate that type of misinformation, because it moves us more and more into the space of dishonoring our divinity. And you've touched on this in many different ways from the various examples you've given, from how we condemn ourselves in the mirror, downplaying our own divinity. We're doing it to the life around us, the trees, our lawns, and whatever else. And I was thinking, like, man, this is like an actual attack on divinity, because seeing how, like, condemning, I'm thinking about experiences that I've had, looking at myself in the mirror and not feeling so good about something, and then next thing you know, I have that cycle and I continue to point out that flaw in the bathroom, so it's very fascinating to see how this all plays out.
And is it actually a flaw, or is it a badge of honor of something you have learned? Is it that you look the way Barbie looks, or is it that you look the way your soul matriculation process has taken you to? So is it appropriate that a 20-year-old um, or a 80-year-old looks like a 20-year-old. Is that an appropriate understanding of the truth when you look at a person who has moved forward in time? Should they look like a 15-year-old? Is that the truth?
See, and there we go. This idea of perfection is all misconstrued because what you were stating, someone going through time and aging, they perfect. They're looking as they should.
That's right. And they look less than perfect to us, even from our own point of view. Even when we want that, we look at them, we think, oh, that's not right. That's not the truth.
Yeah, but
I
again,
was
go right ahead, Diarra.
this so I did do my homework and the two things that popped up was one, hair, and I'm a licensed cosmetologist, and so that's a whole journey through the realm. And I've been licensed since I was in high school. I took it in high school as a trade. However, the one that really speaks to what you just talked about around aging and the sense of perfection is the other. And I knew when I got in the mirror what my two were. So, and it's my breast. So I have always had small breasts, and however, as I've gotten older, they've never really been perky, and they've gotten even less perkier. And so, of course, growing up, I was wearing the push-up bras and the underwire and all of that. And as I've gotten more informed and aware and conscious, I've let that go. And then, of course, that is for me what I was used to seeing, and now what I see without all of that lifting up and all of that kind of stuff. And so I just do, when I look at my breasts, I feel disappointed. I feel sad. I want them to be something that they're not. I want them to be more perky. So I was standing in the mirror, and this isn't the first time that I'd had this thought around wanting to look at my breasts and have more appreciation and love when I look at them. And I was definitely finding myself struggling with authentically being in that space.
Well, let me just add that your homework was to be naked and
Yes.
to look with love and affection upon whatever it is that you have been abusive to your body in thinking about it. So I
Yes.
just want to make sure the audience knows.
Oh, yes, thank you. And so I was having, honestly, I was having a difficult time authentically loving and cherishing and really sending that love into my breast in a way that I want to grow into being able to do it more wholeheartedly. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think one of the ideas is being willing to begin it's just like when you were doing the meditation, the deeper you go into gratitude for everything, the more gratitude you find. Gratitude is the currency. It is, you do buy the happiness with the gratitude. You can buy you some, show enough, I love myself with some gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to practice it because it's not practiced in our experience. It's not practiced in our world. When you look outside or you look at your house or you look at the earth, it is magnificent as it should be. All the things that live on it have a right to live on it. I'm from this planet. Everywhere I set my foot is sacred space. It is my planet. It is my earth. The body that I live in was given to me. I love it because it serves me, whether it serves someone's idea about, perkiness or not, that may not be the case, but it serves me. And how grateful am I for that? And truly, if you want your body to be different, we can make that happen. It just means how dedicated are you? You make everything else you want happen. What makes you think we can't make you perky?
I hear that and I receive that.
The truth of the matter is that you are living in a consciousness that serves you that you really don't have the manual for. But I have participated in and am clear that you can have what you want. It's a matter of, do you want to focus your energy in that direction? Is it really as important to you as you say it is? Is it one of those things like, if you needed to use the energy, if you had to choose between the energy for that and the energy for something else, would you actually choose it?
Probably not.
So then that lets you know that you're just really in self-sabotage.
Hmm.
That this is something we learn through our cultural experience. We learn to be dissatisfied, unhappy, not, we don't want what we have, we want what we don't have. We want whatever is not available. Well, what do I have that's not, top of the line on the shelf today? I want to be upset about that. you know. So
That's,
this is, do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
do. I absolutely do.
So
Um,
this is really important because no one teaches our children that they're truly perfect,
Yes.
and that whatever isn't perfect, they should develop themselves so that they can bring forth the perfection that they would like to see in their experience.
Well, this is again where I think the importance of understanding the uh, being aware of what the why, the how the divine feminine expresses itself, so we can not only identify it, but we can adhere to it and respect it in our own lives. Because again, more and more, this when I see this idea of perfection, I'm thinking of divinity, and God, and I'm over here Googling what is the etymology of divine or divinity. It's like God-like. So
Yeah.
to be the likeness of all that is, the source, which is in everything, it's like, let me put some respect on myself.
Yes.
I'm pretty awesome.
Yes.
But really getting it, and it's kind of like what Diarra was saying, like wanting to adhere to it, adhere to the thing. So this is what I'm gathering from all of
Yeah,
that
and
has been
this,
shared.
and even this idea that there's an aspect of your body that you would like to be different. Even that is like, it got you through to write that check, didn't it? All these decades, those breasts got you here, didn't they?
they did. And another piece that I became aware of as well is how much of the dislike or dissatisfaction, I guess is a better word, has to do with an external projection. Because when I'm just in the house, like when I get out the shower and I look at myself in the mirror, I'm not necessarily thinking, or, oh my gosh, my breasts aren't perky. It's really when I get dressed to go out.
That's external. Yes, it's
It's
that.
external where I'm more conscious of it because of,
Yes.
how I look in my clothes or whatever the case may be. So even understanding that there is dissonance between my own sort of personal satisfaction versus this projection of quote unquote perfection that I have adopted, that's related to the outside world. So
And
that was
this,
also another level of awareness.
it's also so important that our joy is internal, and our everything is internal. Everything is inside your unit. The whole universe that you're manifesting is inside of yourself. But the idea that I think is important for everyone to hear is that people see what they want to see. When, I have all kinds of experiences when I'm out and about, and I have learned people see what they want to see. It doesn't necessarily fit what you think your reality is what they see. And your concern about what they see is most certainly seen. So your
Yeah.
worry, your concern that you won't be received, that they won't think, or they won't like, or yeah, or any of that, they see all of that. You are dressed up in all of that.
Mm.
And that means that you've weakened your whole field. You've weakened everything about you. Your electromagnetic energy has dropped to the ground. It's like you're carrying a cell phone in every pocket because you're concerned.
Wow.
when in fact they see what they want to see anyway. How many people look at a picture and have 20 different opinions? 20 people. So it's really, these are things that we should, stop at the door and think about before we walk outside. Are we clean and presentable? Or do we look the way we want to? Are we happy with how our choices of what we're wearing and how we are presenting ourselves? And then if we are, carry out the happiness out the door.
I like to speak to that idea because that is such a thing. And this is actually something that occurred through calling forth correction, and how calling for correction will help bring to one's awareness what requires correction. So this idea of the self-judgment based off of external factors, and how I caught myself in that level of thinking. Like I would be looking in the mirror, or I better do this, I better do that, and do this and that, or wear this, wear that. And I was like, Scripps. DJ, stop the track. Wait, hold on. what am I saying to myself? And it was just so shocking and revealing, how much power is given away when we are caring about what others think, when most of the time people don't care because they're so consumed with their own selves. And then there's also, it still doesn't matter.
Because they don't care.
Because what matters is us, ourselves, and the power that we have and what we focus our energy and attention to. So I would consciously catch myself when there would be spray this on yourself so that, people can think you smell good. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that because I'm doing it because, you know what, let me get congruent. Do you want to smell good? You do this for you. Don't do this for anyone else. And, so again, just to wrap this up, it was just very revealing to see that, and correction has helped me move through this as well.
This is all so important. As I have grown through time, I have found that I am just delighted with my own choices for myself. I'm quite happy getting up and getting dressed for me all the time. And I'm quite pleased and delighted with all by myself for whatever I'm doing.
For those on the line, my laughter is indicating agreement.
Because you're around enough to know.
Yes, she is very free, liberal with her attire.
So the idea of making sure that we understand the correlation, that at the freedom that we take to liberally really sabotage and abuse ourselves, we have also been in agreement, allowed and permitted it to happen all around us. We allow the trees to be cut down. We allow things to be rearranged. We allow the space around our planet to be littered with 5,000 different satellites. We allow the oceans to be the biggest garbage dump on our planet. We allow all of that because we allow it in ourselves. Whatever the thought is that sabotages us, that we are so concerned about, that no one else cares about because they're all busy in their own experience. All of these things are delusional, and they have brought us to the brink of catastrophe in many ways. And I want to talk more, and I may have to invite you back because I'm going to talk more about hair and what hair really is and what we do and what the history of hair is. I've actually taught this before, but the idea that people are wearing wigs and they're adding fake and phony aspects of synthetic microorganisms that are made into hair looking things, and they're using human hair and all of these different things that could be diseased and from diseased bodies, or it could be plastic derivatives, and they're putting this on their crown chakra, attaching it to the head, which is the place where divine guidance comes in. And it is where the energy, our crown chakras are. And all of these things are supported by all of the ideologies in our world, where Some world religions require women to shave their heads. Some require them to cover their heads. Some, when certain cultures, when in China, when in the 15th century, when rulers would come in and capture another nation, they would make the girls wear bangs to cover their third eye. All of this is because the hair is our antenna. The hair is the living antenna that allows us to know when danger is coming. It brings us information, but we're taught that it's dead. We're taught that it has, so we feel real comfortable with pouring chemicals on it. We feel real comfortable with burning it. We feel comfortable with peroxiding it. We feel comfortable with being angry at it because it lost its melanin, because it's gray. We feel really comfortable with all of these things in the same way we feel really comfortable with killing all of nature, which also comes up, so to say, from the ground as the antenna. The trees are the antenna. And the same idea of, you know, trying to kill all the hair on our bodies because we don't know what it's for. You don't know what it's for, so you want, it's like, you know, appendix. You know, we don't know what it's for, so we're going to take it out. We're in here anyway, so we'll just take it out. This level of ignorance is catastrophic. And so I want to talk more about this, but I'll leave with this idea that we need to pay attention to the contrast between our agreement to allow the earth to be destroyed because we're doing the same things in our own bathrooms, in our own beauty salons, in our own nail shops, on the tables of the surgeons who do the plastic surgery. We're rearranging all the bits and pieces, and we don't know the blueprint. We don't know how to put them back, and we don't know what they were for, but we cut all the pathways through. So the earth is not any different. So this, I hope that this message is clear and that we can come back and have another discussion at another day.
Agreed. Like I said earlier, there's so much more to say for years to come. Diarra, you have any final thoughts before we go? Thank you again, by the way, for joining us and sharing your experience.
My pleasure. This has been amazing, and just an added layer of awareness and consciousness about how all of the topics weave together.
Yes.
And so just the only one that popped into my mind that relates to this is I was in the park walking recently and was taken by the fact that the trees are unapologetically unique. And so I was in the Arboretum, our National Arboretum, and it was little trees and big trees and flowering trees and, you know, just every kind of tree you can imagine. And I just had this awareness that they're unapologetically unique. Like the little trees don't really wish they were bigger. The flowering trees don't really wish they were something else. And I remember having the thought that my desire is to have that level of acceptance and love and comfort in my own beingness, and just seeing them as an example. So the discussion made me think about that.
That's fabulous. And all of this is to bring us to our own divine power through honor, respect, and gratitude to the divine masculine and the divine feminine. But we need to point out what we're actually doing so that we can truly be honest to goddess.
Yes. We're doomed. That was a good one.
So we thank you, and we look forward to the next time that you'll be joining us.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
In Lakesh
and Veritas,
with honor, respect, and gratitude.